Okay, right now I said you about slicing, right? How the slicing is done. I said slicing is done by using a slice operator. Two things are there. One is using slice operator, and second one is using slice object. So slicing is done using two approaches. One is using slice operator, and slicing required multiple indexes. You required a start index, stop index, as well as what? Step. Okay, you required start index, stop index, as well as step. So yesterday I said, if you don't give the start and stop, if you don't give the start and stop, and if you give only a step, the default start will be the 0 and default step is length of the list. Now that is based on the stop value. That is based on the step value. If the step is positive, the start will be the 0 and stop is the length of the list. If the step is negative, then the start is -1 and the stop is length of the list +1. So that will read from right to left and then read from left to right. So this is what we have seen in the previous class. Okay. Okay, but you can also give the start, stop and step also. You can also give the start, stop and step. For example, this is a list. Assume that. So assume that this is a list 1. So the list 1 is having some so this is a list 1 having some 9 values. So this is a list 1. It's having 9 values. Now 10, 20, 30. So these are the values held by the list. Now 60, 70, 80. And there's one more value, 90. So the list 1 is having number of values. So the list 1. So this is a list 1, right? So but each value in the list is identified with the index, right? So I said the index starts at what here? 0. If it is positive, the index starts at 0. And if it is negative, the index starts at 1. So this is 4 and this is 5 and this is 6, 7 and this one is a 8. Okay, and if it is a negative index, it starts at -1. Now this is -9 and -8, -7, and this is -6, and this is -5, and this is -4, -3, and this is -2, and this is -1. So this is from left to right, and this is from right to left. So you can read specific number of values. For example, I want to read from 0 to 4. I want to read from 0 to 4. So what I'm writing is list 2 equal to list 1 of, I'm not giving the start. If I don't give the start, what is the default start? 0. And 0 colon, suppose I want to read values from 0 to 4. Then what is the stop I'm giving? 5. So then what is the default step here? 1. So in this case, the value of start is 0, the value of stop is what? 5, and the value of step is what here? 1. So it will read all the values from 0 to 4. Means it will read 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. It will read 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Suppose I want to read all the values from 5 to end of the list. I want to read all the values from 5 to end of the list. Then I'm writing a list 3 equal to list 1 of, okay. So 5 is which one? Start. But stop is not given. Stop is not given and step is also not given. So then what is the start here? 5. And what is the stop here? End of the list. Stop is what here? End of list. And then what is the step here? 1. Okay, so see here. If I want to read first 5 values, I said colon 5. So it will read from 0 to 4. And if I want to read last 5 values, I said 5 colon. It will read 5 to the end of the list. It will read from 5 to what end of the list. From 5 to end of the list. Suppose I want to read the values from 2 to, I want to read values from 2 to what is it? Some 2 to 6. I want to read values from 2 to 6. Then what I'm doing is I'm trying to write list 4 equal to list 1 of, okay, what is the start here? 2. And what is the stop here? 7. Then what is the value of start here? 2. And the value of stop is a 7. And what is the value of step here? 1. The value of step is a 1. Okay, so it will read all the values from 2 to 7. So what is the output of this will be? Okay, 10 to 50. So this will return how many values? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And what is the output of this? 60, okay, 60, 70, 60, 70, 80, 90. What is the output of this here? So 30, 40, okay, 50, 60, and 70. So 7 is not included. 7 is not included. Suppose I want to read all the values except the first 3 values and last 2 values. Except the first 3 values and last 2 values. I want to read all the values except the first 2 values and last 2 values. I want to read all the values except the first 2 values and except the first 2 values and last 2 values. Then how can I write this? Okay, except the first 2 values and last 2 values. I can write like this. List 1 of, I can start at 2. I can stop at what here? -2. I can start at 2 and I can stop at what here? -2. So the 2 is what here? Start. And -2 is what here? Stop. So if I give -2, it will take equivalent positive value. What is a positive value? 7. So what will happen in this case is, it will take the start. Start is what here? 2. And the stop is what? 7. Stop is a 7 because what is the total length? 9. And 9 minus 2 is what here? 7. 9 minus 2 is a 7. And what is the step is taken here? 1. So it will read all the values except the first 2 values and last 2 values, where the output will be 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. What is it? 80 and 90 is read? No. Okay. So here if you write -2, okay, -2, see, 2 is a start. Okay, 2 is what here? Start. 2 is a start and -2 is what here? Stop. 2 is a start and -2 is a stop. 2 is a start. 2 is a start and -2 is a stop. Okay. So it will read all the values from 2 to, okay, 2 to what is that? -2. But -2 equivalent of positive value is what? 7. So it will read all the values from 2 to what is that? 7. But 7 is included? No. So it will read 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. Right? So you can read it by giving positive index, or you can read it by giving what here negative index. So if you want to read from right to left, then use negative index with the negative stop. So I'm trying to say list 6 equal to list 1 of, I want to read from, okay, I want to read from minus 6, minus 6 colon colon minus 1. If I write minus 6 colon colon minus 1, okay, so what is the start here? Suppose, what is the start? Minus 6. What is the start here? Minus 6. What is the stop? End of list. What is the stop? End of list. What is the step here? Minus 1. Means it will read all the values from minus 6 to what here? Minus 9. It will read all the values from minus 6 to what? Minus 9. Minus 6 to minus 9. So because minus 6 step is minus 1, right? So increment with minus 1. So minus 6 to minus 9, which is nothing but 40, 40, 30, 20 and 10. 40, 30, 20 and 10, because you are reading from which direction? Backward direction. You are reading from which direction? Backward direction. If I'm writing list 7, list 7 equal to list 1 of, list 7 equal to list 1 of, I'm saying minus 5 colon. If I'm saying minus 5 colon, what is the start here? Minus 5. What is the stop here? End of list. What is the step here? 1. What is the step here? 1. So is it decremented or incremented? Decrement. So minus 5 plus 1 is minus 4. Minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, minus 1. So it will read from which position? Minus 5 means 50, 60, 70, 80, 50, 60, 70, 80, and one more value is what? 90. So if you want to read a specific number of values, then you'll try to give the start, stop, as well as what? Step. Okay, you try to give the start, stop, as well as a step. So you try to give 3 values. Okay, you try to give how many values? 3 values, right? So this is done by using which operator here? Slash operator, slice operator. This is using which operator? Slice operator. So using slicing, you can read more than one value. Using slicing, you can read more than one value. So just to see your list 1 equal to list of range of, okay, 10 comma 100 comma 10. So here I create a list by using how many values? 9 values. I said list 2 equal to list 1 of. Okay, I just give the stop. The stop is given as 5. What is the stop is given? 5. So what is the start here? 0. What is the start here? 0. What is the start? The start is 0 and stop is 5. So you can see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. If I'm saying list 3 equal to list 1 of colon 5. So here I said 5 colon. So here the start is 5, but stop is end of the list. Stop is end of the list. Now you can see 60, 70, 80, 90. List 4 equal to list 1 of. I want to read from minus 2 to, okay, 2 to what is that? Minus 2. Means accept the first 2 values and last 2 values. Now you can see 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So I'm trying to say list 5 equal to list 1 of, okay, I try to give minus 6 colon colon minus 1. So you are trying to read in which direction? Backward direction. That is 40, 30, 20, 10. If I'm writing list 6, list 6 equal to list 1 of, minus 5, okay, colon. So you are reading in forward direction but using negative index. Now that is 50, 60, 70, 80 and 90. But you have to give the what is the start, stop, as well as what? Step. So this is useful if you want to read multiple values from the list. And this reading of multiple values is done by using which one? Slicing. Slicing. Reading of multiple values are done by using which one? Slicing here. So this is how it is done. Okay, now created one list. Yes, created one list and perform certain operations here. But here slicing is done also. Slicing, you can do the slicing by using slice object also. So there is a slice object. Slice object is it. Now your slice object is reusable. Okay, slice object is reusable. Slice object is what here? Reusable. Okay, slice object is created with the start, stop, and what is it here? Step. So we are trying to save these values inside one object. We are trying to save these values into one object, and then you apply this object to either one list or more than one list. You apply this object to either one list or more than one list, and this is also useful if you are working with the functions. Okay, slice object is reusable. Now slice is created with a start, stop, and step. It means slice values are stored inside inside one object called which object here? Slice object. Now this slice object, this slice object is used with one list or more than one list. One list or more than one list, right? So slice object, how you create a slice object? By using this slice type. So where you are giving the start, stop, and whereas a step is default is 1. So once you create the slice object, you can use that slice object either one time or more than one time. Inside a program, assume that inside the program, this is your program, right? So I try to create a slice object by saying slice of, I'm just writing here 0, comma, some 3. I create a slice object by saying 0, comma, 3. 0, comma, 3. Now assume that my program is having multiple lists. So list of range, I say 10, comma, 110, comma, 10. So list 2 is there. Okay, list of range 1, comma, 11. So my program is having how many lists here? 2 lists. So that is list 1 and one more is what? List 2. So 2 lists are there. One is list 1 and one more is what here? List 2. Now once you run this, now this is a content of the list 1 and this is a content of which one? List 2. I want to slice this. Okay, now I'm trying to say list 3 equal to list 1 of S. So what is S here? Slice. What is S here? Slice. Okay. Now this slice, what is the starting index here? 0. What is the stop index here? 3. What is the step here? 1. So it means it will read all the values from 0, 1 and 2. So same slicing I want to do on list 2 also. List 2 of which one here? S. It means we are just creating a slice object and we are applying that slice object on list 1, list 2, list 3. You are applying to either one list or more than one list. You are applying this slice object to one list or more than one list. One or more than one list, right? One or more than one list. Now this is list 3. And this is what here list 4. So what list 3 contain? The values from 0, 1, 2. And what list 4 contain? The values from 0, 1, 2. Now this is from list 1 and this is from what? List 2. So it means instead of giving the start stop step, you are storing the start stop inside one object, and you are applying that to either one list or more than one list. It means the slice object is reusable or not? Yes. How many times you are using the slice object? More than one time. How many times you are using the slice object? More than one time. If any changes in slicing, you are doing changes in which object here? Slice object. If any changes in slicing, you are doing changes in which object here? Slice object. Any changes in slicing, you are doing changes in which object? Slice object. Okay, slice object. You are doing changes in which object? Slice. Just run this. Now you can see all these things. Okay, now 10, 20, 30 and 1, 2, 3. That is only a difference between slice object and that is only a difference between slice object and slice operator. Okay, slice object and slice operator. Now this is a simple example of using, but slice operator is more advanced than slice object. But here I must give the start and stop. Slice object is Slice operator is more advanced than which one? Slice object, because here I have to give the start and what is that? Stop. But when I'm using a slice operator, I don't require to use the start and what is that? Stop. If I don't give the start and stop, it takes the default start and stop. If I don't give that, it will take the default start and stop. Yeah, you can see this is output from 10 to 100 and 1 to 10 and 10 to 30, and this is 1, 2 and 3. This is doing slicing with the help of which one? Slice operator and slice object. You can also read the content of, you can also read the content of, you can also read the content of the sequence or collection by using one more object, which is called as what? Iterator. You can also read it by using which one? Iterator. You can also read the content of the, you can also read the content of the collection by using iterator. But actually see, for non-sequences, see for sequences you can read, for sequences, sequence data types, for sequence data types, okay. So these are sequence data types, right? Collections are two, one is sequences and one more is what? Non-sequences. If you're talking about sequence data types like list, okay, tuple, okay, string, okay, then bytes, and then bytes array, okay, bytes array and range, okay. So for this sequence data types, I can read, because sequences are what here? Index based. What are the sequences here? Index based. Okay, all the sequences supports indexing. All the sequences support indexing, and one more is what? Slicing. All sequences supports indexing and what? Slicing. I can read the values from the list using indexing and slicing. I can read the values from the tuple using indexing and what? Slicing. I can read the values from the string using indexing and slicing. Means all these data types allows you to read it by using indexing and what? Slicing. All these data types. Yes, both are same. So all this we can able to read by using indexing and word slicing. But for example, if you are talking about non-sequenced data types, if you are talking about non-sequenced data types, there is a non-sequenced data types are there. So what are these non-sequenced data types? There is a sequences and there is a non-sequences. These non-sequences are like set. Okay, non-sequences like set, frozen set, and there is one dictionary. Now these are non-sequenced data types, and from this non-sequenced data types, you cannot. Non-sequences are non-index based. Non-sequences are what here? Non-index based. Non-index based. Means you cannot read and write the data using which one? Index. You cannot read and write the data using what? Index. These are non-index based. Doesn't support. Okay, does not support because there is no sequence. If there is no sequence, you cannot read it by using positions. Okay. Okay, not doesn't support which one here? Indexing, and one more is what? Slicing. So this collections doesn't support indexing and what? Slicing. Then how can I read the data from this? How can I read the data from this? I can read the data from this because these are non-index based, right? This is a non-index based, and how can I read the data from non-index based collections? How can I read the data from non-index based collections? Non-index based collection. How can I read data from non-index based collections? For that, Python is provided like objects like which one? Iterator. Objects like iterator, enumerator, and one more is a for loop. Okay, but all collections. But if you are talking about collections, so these are the collections, right? Now collections can be sequence type and collections can be what? Non-sequence type. So here I can read it using indexing and slicing. Even I can read it by using iterator. Even I can read it by using enumerate, and even by using which one? For loop. But here, here I can read it by using iterator. I can read it by using enumerate. I can read it by using which one? For loop. But the same objects can I use in sequences or not? Yes. I can use the same data types. I can use the same thing. I can use the same thing in reading the content from sequences also. But actually, these are used. Actually, these are used for which data types? Non-sequenced data types. But you can also use with which data types? Sequenced data types. Actually, these are used with the non-sequenced data types. But even you can use this for reading from which data types? Sequenced data types. But when you use this with the sequenced data types, if you want to make your collection or sequenced data type, if you want to read, suppose you want to read the content of list, but you don't want to modify it. In that case, you can go for which one? Iterator, enumerate, and one more is which one? For loop. Let us talk about this in detail. Okay, but these are used generally. These are used with which data types? Non-sequence data types, which doesn't support indexing and what? Slicing. Which doesn't support indexing and slicing. Non-sequence data types, okay, which doesn't support indexing and which one? Slicing. Now here, there is a iterator. There is a iterator, okay. So iterator is one data type. Okay, iterator is a class. Iterator is a class. Iterator is a class used to create, which object? Iterator object. By using iterator object is used to iterate. Iterating means what? Iterate or read. iterate or read values or objects from, iterate values or objects from, okay, sequences and which one? Non-sequence, sequences and non-sequence. What is that? Collections. Iterator object is used to iterate or read values or objects from, iterate or read values or objects from sequences as well as what? Non-sequences. But index is used only for sequences and slicing is used only for sequences. Iterator is read only. Iterator is read only. Read only means this allows to read. This allows to read objects from, objects or values from collection, but doesn't allow to modify. Doesn't allow to modify, doesn't allow to what here? Modify. Iterator is read only. This allows to read objects or values from collection, but doesn't allow to what? Modify it. It allows to read it, but doesn't allow to modify it. It allows to read it, but doesn't allow to modify it. It means if the collection is mutable, for example, list 1 is there. Okay, there is a names list. Assume that there is one names list which contains some names. There is a names like Naresh, Naresh, Suresh, and one more is. So these are the names list which contain 3 names. This names list contain how many names here? 3 names are there. I want to replace first name. I want to replace first name. I can replace first name by using index. I can say names list of 0. What is the value of 0 here? Naresh. I want to replace this name Naresh with Ramesh, right? I want to replace this name Naresh with what? Ramesh. I just replace it. If you see a names list, if you see the names list, now what names list is having? Ramesh, Suresh, and one more is what? Rajesh. What names list is having? Ramesh, Suresh, and one more is what? Rajesh. So it means using index, I can do, using index, I can read it, I can write it. Using index, I can read it as well as what? Write it. I can delete it. All the operations I can do it by using which one here? Index. Using index, I can read as well as write. But I want, I want, I want to read, but should not allow to what? Write. Then you take the help of which one? Iterator. So what will happen in application development is, what will happen in application development is, assume that there is a 2 functions you have. Assume that you have a 2 functions. When you're developing project, you find 2 functions here. Assume that there is a function 1. Okay, 2 functions are there. One is a function 1 and there is one more function is there. Assume that there is one more function is there called function 2. And this function to receive the list. This function to receive what here? List to perform certain operations. For example, here I create one list. L equal to 10, 20, 30. L equal to 10, 20, 30. Okay. So what list? How many values list is having here? 5 values. The list is having how many values here? 5 values. List is having how many values here? 5 values. Suppose now assume that I want to perform some operations on this list. I'm performing the operation on this list by using one function called what? Function 2. So I'm calling the function 2. See here, I'm calling the function 2 by sending which one here? List. I'm calling the function 2 by sending which one here? List. Assume that, okay. Here, this function 2, assume that. Otherwise, assume that this function 2 is Finding which one? Sum. What is this function here? Sum. What is the name of this function here? Sum. What is the job of sum function is? Sum function job is receiving the list and adding all the values and returning what? Sum. What is the job of sum function is? Receiving the list and adding all the values of the list and returning what? Sum. That is the job of which function here? Sum function. That is a job of some function. Assume that there is one function. Inside this function, I create one list. Now this is a list which contain how many values? 3 values. Now I want to find the sum of this list. I want to find the sum of this list. How can I find the sum of this list? I need to call which function here? Sum function. I want to find the sum of this list. I should call which function here? Sum function. Okay. I'm calling which function here? Sum function by sending which one? List. I'm calling the sum function by sending the list. So what will happen? What will happen when I call the sum function by sending the list? Generally, in Python, when you're talking about Python, right? So Python doesn't support pass by value. Python doesn't support pass by value. In Python, there is only pass by reference. There is no pass by value. There is only pass by reference or pass by address. There is only pass by reference or pass by address. There is only pass by reference or pass by address. Now, this is a list having how many values here? 3 values. Assume that address of this particular list is 1000. What is the address of this list object here? 1000. What is the address of this list object here? 1000, right? The address of this list object is 1000. Now, what will happen when I call the function by sending L? What will happen when I'm calling the function by sending L? Will it send the list or list address? Will it send the list or list address? Address. It will not send the list, but it will send which one here? List address. Now here A is a variable, and this A variable holder address of the list created in what? Function 1. Address of the list created in what here? Function 1. Address of the list created in what? Function 1. Is it some function can do the changes in the list or not? Yes. Because A is holding the same list or not? Yes. Suppose here if I'm writing A of 0, if I'm saying A of 0 equal to some 90, what will happen? Is it this 10 is replaced with 90 or not? Yes. Is it 10 is replaced with 90 or not? Yes. But what is the job of some function? Is it modifying or reading? Reading. The job of some function is reading and doing what? Total. Okay, reading all these values and doing some total. But within the sum function, what will happen by mistakenly? If I write A of 0 equal to what? 90, is it the values of this list get changed or not? Yes. Is it values of this list get changed or not? Yes. Then how can I avoid this? How can I avoid this? How can I avoid this is, now I want this sum function should read the content of the list, but should not allow to modify. I want the sum function should only read the content of the list, but should not modify. In that case, I should not send the list. In that case, I should not send what? List. But instead of that, I'm creating one. Instead of that, I'm creating one what? Iterator. I'm creating one iterator on list. Iterator. ITER. What is the name of the function? ITER. That will return which object? Iterator object. I created iterator object. Now this is which object here? Iterator object. Now this will restrict. Now this is the X, and the X holding which object here? Iterator object. Assume that X is holding iterator object, and the address of this iterator object is what? The address of this iterator object is what? 2000. This iterator, see what you send to this iterator list. So here iterator is holding. Iterator is holding address of which one? List. Iterator is holding address of which one? List. Iterator is holding address of list. This iterator doesn't allow to modify here. Using this iterator object, I can read the values from the list, but using iterator, I cannot. What is the job of iterator? Iterating means reading. The job of iterator is only iterating means what? Reading it, but not allowing to what? Write it. It allows to read it, but it doesn't allow to what? Write it. But that reading is done by using one function. That reading is done by using one function called next. Now, whenever you call the next function on iterator, it will just return the next element from where? List. Means internally, who is maintaining the index here? The index is maintained by, who is maintaining the index here? The index is maintained by iterator. You are not using any index. You are not using any index, but the index is internally used by which object here? Iterator object. Now, whenever I'm calling the next function on this iterator, it just increment the index and return the value. Increment the index and return the value. Increment the index and return the value. But using this iterator, is it able to modify this list? No. To modify, you require a list. If it is a list, I can modify it, but it is a iterator. Is it iterator is a list? No. Iterator is an object which is used to read the elements from what? List. So then what will I do? I don't send a list, but rather than I call the function called sum. I call the function sum by sending which one here? Iterator. So what is the iterator here? X. Which function is called here? Sum function is called. And sum function is called by sending which one here? X. Sum function is called. Which function is called here? Sum function. And sum function is called by sending which one? X. X is a list or iterator. Is it X is a list or iterator? Iterator. Now A is having the address of which object here? Iterator object. Now using this iterator object, this sum function can read only the elements but cannot modify. So that is a problem what you find when you come across application development, right? So iterator is read only. Iterator is read only. By using iterator, you can read it, but you cannot able to what? Write it. So iterator holder, I'm saying no, iterator object holder, iterator object hold address of which one? Collection. So by calling next function on iterator, it returns. By calling next function on iterator, it returns which value? Next value from where? Collection. So iterator is forward only. Iterator is what? Forward only. It allows to read. It allows to read in which direction? Forward direction. Okay. It allows to read only in which direction? Forward. Forward direction. Now 10, 20, 30 like that. But you cannot read it randomly. You can read only in which one? Sequentially. That is from left to right. So iterator is read only as well as forward only. Iterator allows to read. One iterator object allows to read how many times? Only one time. So once you read one element using iterator, you cannot read that element again. Okay. Once you read one element, once you visit one element one time, okay, that element you cannot visit what? Again. So using iterator object, you can read how many times? Only one time. Once iteration is completed, you cannot read the elements what? Again. If you want to read it again, you have to create again which object? Iterator object, right? So you have to call the next function to read next element, right? So what will happen in this case is, for example, there is a list. Okay, there is a list here. So again, names list is there. Names list or any list you take. some courses list. Courses list is having list of courses. Okay, these are list of courses. I want to read this courses from courses list. Then I'm using x equal to iter. What is the function I'm using to return iterator? Iter is a function which returns which object? Iterator object. What is the name of the function I'm using? Iter is a function which you are using it to return which object? Iterator object. It followed by which one? Collection. It followed by which one? Iterable. ITER. It followed by collection. ITER. It followed by collection or what? Iterable. ITER followed by collection or what? Iterable. So any collection or any iterable, you have to define it. Any collection or iterable. So ITER, it followed by which one? Courses. Courses what? List. I want to read each course. I'm calling which function here? Next function. Next of x. X is what now? Iterated. What is the next value of what is the next value in the list? Java. So this will read the first course and next of x. Okay, next of x. Next, sorry, C3 equal to next of x. Now C3, C4 equal to next of x. Now this will return each time one course. Now total, how many courses? Now 5 courses are there. I just displayed all the 5 courses. Now this is C1, C2. This is a course 3 and this is course 4. And this is what here? Course 5. Now if you run this, you can see Java, Python, C++, C and what? Oracle. But if I'm writing C6 equal to next of x. If I'm writing C6 equal to next of x. If I'm writing C6 equal to next of x. Is it any values to read? No. Then it generates which one? Error. Because there is no more values to read. Because there is no more values to what here? Read. There's no more values to read, then it generates what here? Error. What is the error it is generated here? Stop iteration error. So there is an error here. What is the error here? Stop iteration error, because there's no more elements in the list. So by calling next method on iterator, if there is no more values to read, then it raises which error? Stop iteration error. I just put in comment this one. Okay. But what will happen if my course list is having 100 courses? What will happen if my course list is having how many courses? 100 courses. 100 courses are there in my course list. Assume that my course list is having 100 courses. But to read that 100 courses, okay, to read that 100 courses, okay, to read that 100 courses, what you need to do? You have to call next 100 times. If my course list is having 1000 courses, you have to write next how many times? 1000. So will it that becomes very complex or not? Yes. Then what you can do is you can give this iterator. What you can do is you can give this iterator to which one? For loop. You can give this iterator to the for loop. Now I'm creating y equal to iterator on which list here? Courses list. Okay, I try to create an iterator on which list here? Courses list. I'm using which loop here? for loop. So I don't require to call the next function. The next function is called by, I don't require to call the next function, and the next function is called by which loop? For loop. Okay. What I'm saying is for C in, for C in, for C in which one? Y. What is Y here? What is Y here? Iterator object. What is Y here? Iterator object. This iterator object read values from which list? Courses list. Okay, now who is calling the next function here? Who's calling the next function here? For loop. So read each course from course list. What is the first course? Java. What is the second course? Python. What is the third course? C++. What is the next course? C, and next course is what? Oracle. So I don't require to call number of times next. Now you can see Java, Python, C++, C, and one more value is what? Oracle. Now is it read all these values one by one or not? Yes. So you don't require to call which function here? Next function. Okay. You can just give this iterator to which loop? For loop. You can just give this iterator to the for loop, and that for loop will read. That for loop will read all the values with the help of which one? Iterator object. So that is called as an external. So that is actually called as an external iterator. So that is called as an external iterator here. Now this is output here, Java, Python, C++, C, and there's one more value which is called as a Oracle. But using this iterator, you can just read it, but you cannot write it. Then there is one more way of creating, there is one more way of reading the content of, there is one more way of reading the content of collection. And what is that here? Enumerate. But I say no, all these are used when you are working with like functions, when you are working with functions, and when you are working with which data types? Non-sequence data types, because non-sequence data types doesn't support what? Indexing and slicing. Then how can I read the data from set? How can I read data from what? Frozen set, with the help of which one? Iterator, enumerate, and for loop. Even I can use this with which data types? Sequence data types also. Even I can use this with which data types? Sequence data types also, right? Yes. So even I can use this with data types, sequence data types also, right? Okay. The next is there is one more type of collection is there. What is that? Another one you have enumerate. Enumerate is there. See, enumerate is similar to iterator only. Enumerator is similar to which one? Iterator only. But the thing is, enumerate, it will read two values. One is a value and one more is a count. It will read the value as well as what? Count. Count. It will return two values. One is a value and one more is which one? Count. So enumerate, enumerator or enumerate, which provide constant operation, means this allows to read it, but doesn't allow to what? Modify it. It allows to read it, but doesn't allow to what? Modify it. Okay. Yes. Address of first value in list. I think you are from C language. Huh? You're from C language, huh? You're from C language, huh? Then you're okay. So don't think about that. Okay. Don't think about that. Okay now. Yes. Enumerate, right? So enumerate is similar to what? Enumerate is similar to iterator only. Enumerate is similar to which one? Iterator only. Yes. Listen here. Don't stop reading mobiles. Okay. Stop seeing mobile. Okay. Enumerate is just like iterator only. But enumerate return how many values here? Two values. But enumerate useful. This enumerate is useful if you want to convert some collections. If you want to convert these sequences, if you want to convert these sequences into, like for example, I want to convert sometimes in application development, I want to convert list into dictionary. I want to convert list into what is that? Dictionary. Using list, I want to draw one graph. When I'm saying list, using list, I want to draw one graph. But when you want to draw the graph, you require x-axis as well as what? Y. But assume that the values which are there in list is y, then how can I define x? Then I require x values also not, right? Then how can I define that? By using which one? Enumerate. Enumerate. So enumerate is similar to which one? Iterator. Okay. But enumerate returns two values. One is value of collection and second one is which one? Count. Value of collection and second one is count. By default or default value of count is what? 0. So whenever you iterate values from collection, it return the value as well as what? Count. First value count is 0. Second value count is 1. Third value count is what? 2. Fourth value count is what? 4. But can I change this count? Yes. Even I can change the count. Now by calling next function on enumerate. So next function of enumerate. Next function of enumerate. Next function of enumerate. Okay, next function of enumerate return how many values? 2 values. But next function of iterator return only value of collection. But next function of enumerate return 2 values. One is value of the collection and one more is what? Count. One is value of the collection and one more is a count. This both are written. Both are written by next function of which one? Enumerate. Next function of enumerate written how many values here? 2 values, right? This is useful if you want to convert the sequences into what? Dictionaries. If you want to use, if you want generate some indexes also. Now you want to print the values along with what? Indexes. You want to print the values along with what? Indexes. Then even that you can do it by using which one? Enumerate. Enumerate return. Now enumerate is a function. Again, enumerate function returns enumerate object. Enumerate function returns which object here? Enumerate object. What is the name of the function is enumerate. Now iter function returns iterator object. Like that enumerate function return which object? Enumerate object. Just try to see here. There is a list. Okay, assume that there is a sales list. So there is a sales list which contains some sales. These are the sales here of some years or some, okay. Assume that these are some sales. There is a sales list here. This is a sales list. What is the name of the list here? Sales list. The sales list is there. What is the list here? Sales list. And this sales list is having how many sales here? Some sales are there. The sales list is having some sales, right? So how many year sales is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I want to read this. I want to read this using which one? Enumerate. So what I'm doing, I'm creating enumerate on which one here? Sales list. I'm creating enumerate on sales list. Then I said, calling next function on enumerate return. How many values? 2 values. One is a counter and one more is a value of the collection. Okay, suppose I'm trying to say some A, or I'm saying sales 1. I'm trying to